I'm like, you were the last one to see Lacey. Is she here? Is she hiding? Are you hiding her? Because I was told she's probably hiding out because she's going to get busted. And he's like, I don't need to let you in here. I'm like, well, if you're not hiding her and she's not in here, why can't you let me in? So he's like, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the cops. I'm like, go right on ahead. You call the cops right now.
There is one thing that I wanted to clarify in this. So, in the case breakdown, when we're talking about the drive-by shooting that Lacey was involved with, that she was facing possible prosecution on, she had been charged for it, and that apparently she was cooperating with the police about that case. When we had covered it in the case breakdown, we had actually stated that that drive-by shooting was done in relation to the drug trade. The boyfriend that she was with at the time was a suspected drug dealer, and our understanding was that the drive-by shooting was somehow connected to this drug business. Now, you'll see in this interview with Pam that she actually names a different motivation for this drive-by shooting. That's actually much more personal and in some ways, even more interesting. Obviously, the shooting happened. They were facing charges on it. The only question is, why did that shooting happen? And Pam had a very different answer for that than what we laid out in our case breakdown. So I just wanted to flag that up top as you guys go into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's carry that forward into our next interview, which will be with Lacey's sister, Felicia, and her husband, Nick, who had heard that it was more drug related. So make of it what you will, you guys. I think this is one of those things where Lacey had a lot going on in her life. Not everybody was there with her every second of the day. And some people have heard this and some people have heard that. But Pam's, to me, it seems really believable because she was very, very close to her daughter. She was living with her. And I mean, you guys will see. So we just wanted to give you that flag up front. If you notice an inconsistency, that's where that's coming from. And you can make your own decision on what to go with.
I would
So
even add, though, just, because I had forgotten that Nick and Felicia had actually corroborated what we thought, that it's possible that both are true. Considering the circles that Lacey was running in and the people that she was hanging out with and the men that she was dating, it's quite possible that both answers could be true at the same time on this thing.
that's absolutely right. Yeah. And so we'll let you guys sort that out for yourselves. At the end of the day, the motivation for that drive-by shooting is not really what this story is about. That is some backstory to what happened here and what was going on in her life. But I wouldn't want you guys to get too hung up on it. What really matters is what happened afterwards and the different people involved in Lacey's disappearance at that point. So, with all that being said, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel and you like what we're doing and you believe in the mission of platforming these unsolved stories and helping families get them out there, please consider subscribing to True Crime Unsolved. It helps us out tremendously if you do. It boosts us with the algorithm when you watch, it boosts us when you subscribe, and we want as many people as possible to see what these families are dealing with and try to get them some help and some answers. So, that being said, Miles, should we get into our interview with Pam Johnson?
Let's do it. Pam, thank you so much for getting on with us today. We feel really honored that you want to talk to us and that you're here with us. Why don't we just start by you sort of introducing yourself to the audience and telling everybody why you're here and who you are.
Okay, I'm Pam Balls, and my daughter is Lacey Anderson. I'm here to tell her story. She was outgoing, loving, caring, fun. She did everything she needed to do from graduating to working a job and paying for a car, and just a genuine good person to
What
me
was she,
anyway.
what was she like as a little kid? Do you remember like what kind of a
Oh,
kid she was?
oh yeah, she was ornery. She's the ornery kid. I always said if I would have had her first, I would have never had any more. She did everything she could to be naughty.
That's a
Um,
great answer. I
Where
love
where
the
was she in the birth order?
she's second.
got
It's
it.
Felicia, Lacey, and then Hannah. Hannah's my youngest. But yeah, no, she was the middle child, and she let everybody know she was the middle child. Matter of fact, I was going through her book last night. They had to make some kind of a journal kind of book in high school for a class that they had. Felicia had to do that too. But I was reading through it, and she told the story about how I did daycare, and she never wanted to take a nap when it was nap time. So I'd put her in her room and put a child gate across her door so she'd stay in her room and not come out and wake up all the other little kids. she put in there that the whole story said how she'd tear up her room and take everything out of her toy box and take her bed apart and ask for snacks. And I'd bring her snacks and she'd try to climb the gate. And so she was my ornery child.
So she was like rooting and tooting from day one, it sounds like, just
Oh, yeah.
ready to go.
She was spirited.
She fell out of a tree, broke her glasses, got back up and climbed back in that same tree.
That says it all right there. I think
Yep.
that's,
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
yeah.
But it sounds like you have a lot of great memories, at least from her childhood. Um,
I do from her high school too. I mean, we went through a lot, but all in all, she's a good person.
Yeah.
when did you guys see that she was having some problems or sort of falling in with the wrong people or like
Honestly, it started in junior high. Actually, or even middle school. The middle school here is kind of like a small junior high.
Mhm.
It goes middle school, junior high, and then high school. Um, but junior high was probably the main part.
okay.
What do you think happened there? Like what was the instigating moment here?
Part of me thinks that she just wanted to be a rebel and hang out with people like that.
Hmm.
But I don't know, being middle kid, new schools, new town. We lived in New York and we moved back to Norfolk at that time. Just a whole different string of things.
So it kind of started with the wrong crowd, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Bad
I mean,
influence.
I
Yeah.
mean, she had like really nice, good female friends, but it seemed like she picked really horrible guy friends, like the bad boys.
And it
That'll
seems like that's something that continued
Yeah.
as she got older.
Yes. Very much so.
So what was it like for you as a parent? Because a lot, obviously a lot of kids, especially at that age, go through a phase and then it ends at some point, right? But it seems like for Lacey, the phase started and kind of just got worse and worse, unless I'm reading the situation wrong. But tell me about like your experience trying to like navigate that as her mom.
Well, she went to treatment. Um, if I found any paraphernalia on her, she'd get grounded, car taken away, not able to do things with her friends. And then she'd act out on that. Um, Suicide a few times, tried to commit suicide. So then you're scared to actually do anything like punish her because you don't want to take her life. But tough love is if you don't do it, she's going to go down the wrong road anyway. So we went through that for a good 4 years.
You guys were really between a rock and a hard place trying to figure out how to help her, huh?
Yeah. And you could say don't hang out with somebody or kids sneak around.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I had my own troubles as a kid, and a lot of what you're talking about sounds familiar. But like Sean said, you kind of you get out of it. Um, that's the hope anyway, right? That you you age out of it. And she was still pretty young when what happened, so maybe she would have.
I feel like she was coming to that realization that there was more to life, like college and things to do besides party.
Yeah, because she still had a lot of time ahead of her. And
Yeah.
that's the shame of all this. And it seems like towards the end, and we're gonna get into all the details, but it seems like she was trying to do the right thing in regard to the trouble she was facing and all that.
Yes, absolutely. When she went missing, everybody thought she was running from it, but she knew it was coming. And I mean, nobody wants to go through it, but she's like, all my friends are ready for college and I don't know what I'm going to do. But when she was done, she was going to go to Joseph's hair school like her sister.
So it sounds like she had, and again, like we'll cover all this kind of piece by piece, but before we dive in, it sounds like she had hit a point in her life that was almost kind of a rock bottom, right? Where she had been involved in something that was so bad it scared her, and there were real consequences coming her way. And if she had lived, that might have been the moment where she turned her life around, right? Yeah, I can see that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, got it. Well, let's talk about it a little bit then, because obviously, she had her troubles early. It sounds like in middle school, and then high school came and things got even crazier. But when do you think this really got serious? And I guess what started the sort of the events in motion that would eventually lead to the whole reason that we're talking today?
Um, it all stems on a guy. It all goes back to a guy thing. She got hooked up with a certain guy and that was her life. She was going to marry him and moved out with him for a little while and moved back into home afterwards. And once they turn 18, you're kind of, you can't tell them what to do. I mean, you think you can tell them what to do, but she's a tough cookie.
Right. Now,
Um,
the guy that you're talking about, that's the person who was her ex at the time when she went missing, right?
yes.
She got into the trouble with where the
Yep.
case was pending.
Yep.
Did you ever meet him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This sounds horrible, but he stayed at mine and Lacey's apartment the week before he got sentenced to prison with us, and they were straight, no drugs, no alcohol, with me the whole time. If they could have been like that when they were younger, they'd both be happy today
What was he getting sentenced for?
for the drive-by shooting.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And
And
so he
she,
actually you actually had a relationship to some extent with this guy.
yeah, and I mean, we weren't close before that happened, but I mean, I knew him, I knew how he was, and I don't know, when I was young, nobody was going to tell me I wasn't going to be with Lacey's dad either. So, you know what I mean?
Right. It
Right.
kind of comes with the age. Well, I
Yep.
guess let's because we're talking about it, and I want the audience to have like, some clarity on what we're talking about. Can you just tell us what happened with this drive-by shooting incident and how Lacey got involved and her boyfriend's involvement and like what happened there?
Well, she tried to break up with him. Um, Part of the influence of drugs. I think he was probably dealing them. I'm not 100, I can't 100% say yes, but I think he was. Um, so she had broke up with him and had gone shopping with another guy and another girl, and the guy bought her a new pair of tennis shoes. And can we say names or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, John was upset that this guy bought her a new pair of tennis shoes, and so he wanted her to prove his love for her, or her love for him. Um, a, a triangle, a love triangle is what they called it in the newspaper. Uh, so to prove it, she had to drive the car. Well, they shot at the house of the kid that bought the shoes. And he
Wow.
lived with another girl, the girl that was actually shopping with him. So that's where that started. And even though she didn't touch a gun, because she didn't like guns at all, she would never, I mean, we all used to hunt and shoot, but she wouldn't have any part of it. Uh, even though she was driving, she was still an accessory. So
So
she was probably
the drive-by didn't have anything to do with drug traffic or him dealing. It was literally
literally about a pair of tennis shoes and Lacey getting them from a different guy.
How did they get caught?
That I don't know, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
Um, Maybe if I remember right, they might have no, because I don't even think that they were home when it happened. I honestly don't know how they got caught.
Yeah.
wow.
I know like John's little brother was in there and he got sentenced for it, and Lacey was going to get sentenced for it too. She was probably looking at some time in the York prison, the women's
And
prison.
John's brother was the other person that was in the car.
Yes.
So it was John, his brother, and Lacey.
Yep.
Right. What did she, so when did you find out about all this?
It's so hard to remember all this.
It sounds like you guys, despite whatever chaos was in her life, it sounds like you guys still had a relationship.
Oh yeah. I think I had to bail her out of jail, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. She's in jail twice, and I'm not sure if that's the time that I let her sit there for a few weeks to think about it. It might have been because they wanted a lot of money to bail her out, and the longer that she sat there, the cheaper it got. And honestly, as a mom, she needed to sit there.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's pretty serious. I think I can
I
see.
knew she was safe. You know what I mean? She
Yeah,
was
I
yeah.
safe,
don't
but she
think
sat.
I don't think anyone's judging you on that. Yeah.
No, it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, well, that's really interesting. So that kind of colors that whole thing in a strange light because it really is this guy, John. It's purely about him, right? This isn't like Miles said, a drug trafficking thing like you see drive-by shootings about that. This is really about him and his relationship with Lacey. And so it sounds like after this happened, I mean, a child was nearly hit, or at least a bullet entered the room where a child was, right? And
Or that where the child slept. I don't think they were home.
right.
But it was the kid's room, right?
Yes, yeah.
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 And it
And
also just to add what you said, Sean, it sounds like control. More than anything, to me, it sounds like a crazy level of control that he was trying to exert on her, which speaks to the nature of the relationship in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Well, when did she sort of tell you about it, or when did she start showing some signs that she wanted to, you know, maybe make amends or do something about, being involved in this?
Well, first of all, she was going to be going to court for it. And part of the thing was that she was going to testify against John and go to treatment. And that's, we talked about it. And I mean, I don't even know what to say because I'm not proud that she did something like that, but she wasn't either, you know?
Yeah.
Well, so she discussed it with you. She told
Yeah.
you what was going on, and she said, "I'm going to testify against John, and then part of my deal will be that I'll go to treatment."
Well, and she probably was going to be sentenced to some jail time. I mean, she wasn't going to get off scot-free,
Hmm.
but um,
But
but
she
that
would have
was
gotten some leniency for cooperating.
yes. And for a while, the story was is that, she was ratting him out and working for the cops and she was working undercover and that she was taken because she was working undercover and people killed her because of that. And there's so many stories. And there was a rumor that, John hired somebody to take her out from prison because she was going to testify against him.
Right.
And there's so many stories, you just don't know which one is actually really real.
Right. Where would you hear this stuff? Like, where were these rumors flying around?
So I had to shut my Facebook Messenger off because they would come through all night long. I mean, for weeks. Random people I've never heard of before, didn't even know her, would get a hold of me and say, "Hey, I might have information." Where, I mean, one of the worst ones is, "Oh, is it true that she had her tongue cut out for snitching?" You know,
And they sent that to you, her mother. Like, yeah.
yeah,
I'm so sorry, man.
yep. So I, to this day, do not have my Facebook Messenger notifications on.
I can only imagine. Yeah, people can be really, really brutal for no reason and
Yeah.
about things that they're not even associated with. It's
and
very
and
strange.
again, she was wrong for what she did. I'll be the first one to admit that. So
Well, let me ask you this because I think, looking at the discussion around what happened to Lacey, so much of it does center around the idea that someone was afraid she was talking to the police too much, whether it was John or we can talk about the new boyfriend in a couple minutes. But was there anything else in her life, like aside from that issue, that you were worried about, right? Was there any other jealousy with some other guy or some other girl or like anything that you heard of that didn't relate directly to sort of that issue that keeps coming up?
um, I was worried that she was involved with drug dealers
Yeah.
because she was using, you know, before she went missing, she was using. Um, she liked her drug. I don't, I don't know why, but she did. And so she was actually at a house spending the night, and it was busted by the SWAT team. And it was his name was Rodrigo Ortega. He was an actual drug dealer, felon. Um, they, I think that's what woke her up. To be honest with you, is that because they took her to jail right from there,
Oh, wow.
and she had nothing on her. She was just in the house, and they came in with like the smoke bombs and broke the windows out and broke the door down, and she was sleeping and got arrested with them. They had guns and they were felons, and for a long time he was a suspect too.
Now,
And so
just to for clarity, when did that happen? Like on the timeline? Was that after the drive-by or before?
I'm having a hard time remembering that if it was before or after.
Okay.
Um, I
And
want to
was
say
she with Jamie at Rodrigo's place, or was
no,
she
no,
was
just
there on
with
her
some
own?
friends, just with friends. I think that might have been actually before the drive by, but so I think I'm not sure.
Okay. And Nick told us quite a bit about that guy. So the name is very familiar. Uh,
He's actually now in the federal pen.
He is.
Yes, he went to a different county
Wow.
and got busted.
I'm assuming on drug charges.
He shot somebody in the knee.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, a different county. When I was talking to you guys before, Madison County, he got out of, he ran and they caught him and brought him back from in Texas for that drug charge or that raid. And within 6 weeks, he was out of jail.
Wow.
So, I mean, he should have been a, what's it when it's a felon that you had it for, you should automatically get 10 years.
Right. And somehow he's back on the street like within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk more about that. I feel like that's going to be, I want to put it off for a couple minutes because there's a couple things I want to get to first, if
Okay.
that's all right.
Yep.
So one of the big ones is, so we talked about John, the boyfriend who was involved in the drive-by. That relationship ends. And at some point, she winds up dating a guy named Jamie, right? Who
Yeah.
also, I think, is involved in the drug trade, maybe even more seriously than you suspected John was. I don't know. I can't compare them.
Yeah, actually, he was.
He was.
And
Okay, so that's a fair
and
statement.
I don't want to say that they were dating. I want to say they were hanging out.
Sure. So early stages, like this
Yeah,
was okay, got it, got it. Did you ever meet that guy? And if so, what did you think of him?
I did not meet that guy until I stood on his doorstep.
Oh man. Okay.
But
But you were
Why
aware of him.
I was aware of him and I was aware he was bad news.
Got it. Got it.
why did you stand on his doorstep?
When she was missing.
Got it. And you, well, in
I
that
figured you want to go to that later. So
yeah. No, thank you. Um, Go ahead, Sean, pick it back up because you said you had a couple of things.
I think that was the big one. So the other thing I was going to say is it sounds like from talking to you, Pam, that a lot of this was happening in a really compressed timeline. Like sounds like
yes,
she, the raid at Ortega's, her going to jail the first time, the drive-by, her going to jail the second time, the breakup with John, getting with Jamie. It sounds like it was like this didn't take place over years. This was pretty quick.
no, it was
Okay,
quick.
got it. Because I can tell because you're like, did that happen first? Was it this? Got it.
It's
Okay,
also
well,
been 16 years.
yeah, no, I know it's been a
Right.
while, and I'm trying to think, if it was one summer of my life 16 years ago, I would have a really hard time too, trying to like keep it straight. But I think what's important here is just backing out and looking at what was going on in her life. It sounds like a whirlwind to me of stuff, and a lot of it's really scary and anxiety producing and
Hmm.
negative. So you must have been having a really hard time with this because she was living with you, right? And you were
Yeah,
seeing all this like firsthand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was, my life was a nightmare for a while.
Was there
But
ever, because you mentioned earlier that she had like tried to hurt herself in the past. Was there ever any time in that period where you were worried that because of, as Sean said, there was all this tension and anxiety and everything going on, that she might go that route?
I worried about that every day of her life since she was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. But you just, you just keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Um, as far as like when we were living in the apartment together before she was going to be sentenced and stuff, she was depressed some days and then some days she wasn't. It just depended on who she talked to that day and who could bring her spirits up. Like, you still have life coming, you still got things coming, stay positive and setting goals and stuff like that. Just it depended on who she was around.
Sure. Yeah, this is so important, right? Um, that's really, really interesting because I that's kind of what I was wondering if she was feeling optimistic that, look, if I do this, I know I'm going to have to face the consequences, but maybe this is the way out, and then I can, as you said, go to school and make a turn because it sounds like she was headed towards that to me.
She wanted help and she wanted to be better. And I know that for a fact. I mean, a mom knows.
Yeah.
Sure. So can you take us to that to it was the 23rd, right? The last time that you saw her?
Yeah.
What was going on that day? And I know it's 16 years, but you're doing such a great
Well,
job.
I can remember that day perfect. Um, Actually, I was separated from my husband then, and that's when Lacey and I lived together. And he lived out at the farm where they were raised as high school kids. But Hannah, my youngest, lived in York with her father, and I had to take her back to York that day. And Lacey was going to ride along with me, and my ex-husband decided that he was going to ride along too. And so um, Lacey was kind of having a little moodiness going on that morning anyway. And she was in the bathroom and she was kind of cryy. And she opened the door and my ex was sitting on the couch and she was like, "What in the hell is he doing here?" I'm sorry, I don't swear. So and I just told her that he was going to ride along. So then she refused to ride along with me. And um, we left with great big hugs and I love yous. And I left for York to take Hannah home and he rode with us. And to this day, I wish that she would have.
Oh,
But so when I left though, she would like we did that whole we have a mom hug and we hug. We're a hugging family. And she told me she was gonna hang out with some friends. And uh, about an hour later, after I left town, she's like, "Can you bring me a Diet Coke when you get home?" She calls me, and I'm like, "You realize I'm not gonna be home for like 4 hours, right?" And that was my last call,
wow.
telling her that I couldn't bring her a Diet Coke for 4 hours and that I loved her.
So no indication from your conversation with her that she was scared about anything or was going to go to a particular place with a particular person, just very normal conversation, it sounds like.
Yep. Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, earlier in the morning, she was kind of down because she knew sentencing was coming. But, by the time I left, she had perked up and I left there thinking I'd see her when I got home.
How far out was the sentencing hearing from this time?
It was sometime in September.
Okay, it's about a month-ish, maybe a little less.
Actually, probably not even, yeah, probably
Yeah.
a few weeks.
Okay. Okay. So it was looming.
Yeah.
But you didn't talk to her again after that, after the Diet Coke conversation.
Nope. I just figured she was out for the night. Tried to call her a couple of times and she didn't answer. We did have a rule that I paid for her cell phone bill. She had to talk to me at least once or twice a day, but we lived together, so we should have been talking anyway. But at least call me and check in if you're not going to be at home. Anyway, so she didn't answer. But anyway, I went to work the next day and uh, I worked at a gym as a manager, and she would come work out there. And there was this really cute college kid that went home for the summer, and he was back. And so I tried to call her and say, "Hey, he's back," so we could flirt. She could come flirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was cute, you know. Anyway, she didn't answer the phone, and I kept trying to call her throughout the day, and didn't answer the phone. Didn't answer the phone, and it was just going to like a hang up, like click and like when the phone is dead or nobody is there. And I knew after not hearing from her on the second day, there was something wrong
Right.
because the rule was I pay for your cell phone, you call me. And we never had a problem with that ever. I mean, we always talked. And I was probably the first, if it wasn't me, it was Felicia. And she had two Felicias, by the way. She had a best friend named Felicia too.
Wow.
So,
So it would not have necessarily been unusual for her to like spend the night at a friend's house, but by the next day you would have heard from her normally.
yeah, yep.
So
At
when
least after lunch, I would have heard from her.
so when does this start to turn from I'm annoyed to then I'm a little worried to now I'm freaking out and maybe calling other people to look for her? Is that how it played out?
Yeah, that's exactly how it played out. On the next day, the third day, I reported her missing. And I tried all the people that I was like, knew she hung out with, talked to all her friends. I mean, I tried everyone
Wow.
and no one had seen her.
What was the response that you got from law enforcement? Did they tell you that it had to be like a certain amount of time?
If I remember right, they took a report. Um, and I want to say they didn't take it strongly. I want to say they took it mildly because she had a sentencing coming up in a few weeks and they thought she was hiding.
They knew who she was. Like you called in, they were like, "Oh, it's Lacey."
They know the Norfolk police didn't really know her like really, really well as far as like, oh, she's the bad girl on the street or whatever. As far as that, no, that's not how it was. Um, she worked a lot with one of the state patrol officers that knew her probably better than the local police. Um, but the a few days after I reported her missing, this is why I say they didn't take it seriously. I had somebody break into my apartment on the second floor. We lived on the second floor. They had to climb about to get a balcony to get up there and break into the sliding glass door. And when I got home and saw that somebody tried to break in, I called the Norfolk PD. And when they got there, I said, well, this is where the missing girl lives. And they're like, there's a missing girl in town. And I'm like, yeah, I reported my daughter missing, like I want to say it was a couple of days. Um, they didn't know.
What was that like for you?
Oh, heartbreaking, especially since the police officer's brother was one of my classmates.
Hmm.
It's a small area. Everybody knows everybody. But yeah, I was like, are you kidding me? Um, I went to the sheriff and the state patrol right away.
Right. Because this whole time you thought that,
I
you
thought
you have
they
a
were going
missing
to help.
daughter.
They
Yeah,
were
Yeah,
actually
someone's
looking
looking. You
into
told the
it.
police they're on it, right? But that must
yeah.
have been like a horrifying moment to find out.
Well, here I am going to everybody's doors, knocking on the doors and raising Cain, and police aren't even doing anything.
Did they successfully break into your place? Whoever that was?
No, they didn't, but they messed up my sliding glass door really bad. So
Do you think that was somehow connected to your daughter's disappearance?
no,
It's just a crazy coincidence.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I don't. I know that the state patrol officer he really searched into him, and it's the state patrol officer I trusted.
Right.
So
So how does this escalate from here, right? You said you go to the state patrol, you go other places, you're looking yourself, but obviously she's not found for quite a while. So I guess take us through this little bit of time here where we don't know what happened to Lacey, but you're looking.
I kept continuing to call numbers and had a few people block me and delete me on Facebook, and I made some enemies, but I was bound and determined to find her. And um,
But
I
who would make an enemy of a mother missing their kid? Like who?
somebody annoyed by a mother calling and saying, "Hey, she was supposed to be with you last night."
Right.
Are
Got
we
it.
talking about Jamie here?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So earlier you mentioned that you went to his door, and I think now might be the time we can talk, we can get to that part of the story. And I understand why you went there, but let's talk about it.
Okay. Like I said, I called. And the only reason I had her number is because I had to get a warrant to get the. How did I get that? I don't know if I got it. How I got his number? Maybe friends. Actually, I think one of the girls that she was hanging out with, I got a bunch of numbers from them. They were her close friends, were very, very helpful. But I figured if he's not going to answer my phone calls or at least reply, you know, screw off, I'm going to stand at his doorstep because that was supposedly the last place that she was at. And this was after the police did start actually taking it serious and investigating a little bit. Um, I I should give them more credit than I am, but they kind of made me mad. Uh, I shouldn't have had to go stand on that doorstep. They should have.
Yeah, absolutely. I
But
think,
anyway, I went to the house, knocked on the door, and some guy answered that didn't live there and told him who I was and who I was looking for. And he's like, well, Jamie's not here. That person's not here. And I'm like, well, can I come in and see if Lacey's here? And he knew exactly who I was talking about. And he's like, she's not here. I'm like, I am not leaving until somebody lets me in that house. And so then Jamie got there and I'm like, you were the last one to see Lacey. Is she here? Is she hiding? Are you hiding her? Because I was told she's probably hiding out because she's gonna get busted. And he's like, I don't need to let you in here. I'm like, well, if you're not hiding her and she's not in here, why can't you let me in? So he's like, if you don't leave, I'm gonna call the cops. I'm like, go right on ahead. You call the cops right now. I'm gonna stay here until they get here, and then maybe they'll make you let them in. But he never called the cops. He finally let me in, and took me through the whole entire house, and there wasn't one piece of furniture in that house. They had
Oh,
emptied it out. I made
Wow.
him take me into the basement, and I made him take me everywhere.
how did you know that he was the last person that she had spoken to
Um,
or seen?
I think that mom intuition was that that's who she was going to be hanging out with, and so that's where I was going to go.
Right.
Something you said really struck me too, which is that you were almost like of the mindset at that point that she was still okay and
Yeah.
was maybe hiding out, maybe using and like in a bad headspace about the upcoming sentencing hearing.
Yes.
And that's kind of what you were expecting. So when you went to confront Jamie, it wasn't quite yet like, I think you killed my daughter. It was,
No.
where's she hiding? Are you covering for her?
Yeah.
Kind of
Are
thing.
you hiding her?
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And so you mentioned he was obviously agitated that you were there. Did you get the sense at all that he was being deceptive with you or not telling the truth, or did he just seem annoyed that he had to deal with you, like,
No, he
period?
was very arrogant and cocky and like she was no good and why would he have her and that, but he also had a baby mama with two kids with him. So
Well, that definitely puts a different, yeah, color on the whole situation. So you're talking to him about some other young woman when his when his baby mama's there. I could see it. I could see it.
yeah.
I had a question for you that I wanted to follow up on that with. So, you said something super strange, and then we kind of moved on because there's a lot happening in this story. But you go in this house and there's nothing there. That's really unusual, right? That someone would have a
So when
house.
yes,
Tell
I
so tell us what did you think about that? I mean,
well at one time during the time that she was hanging out with him, she asked me if she could use my carpet shampooer, and so she took that there, which by the way he inherited. But so I thought, well, maybe that they had clean carpets, but the whole entire house was empty. I guess there was one mattress there, and that was it. I mean, not even on a bed frame or anything, just a mattress laying on the floor.
And no
And
signs of life, like food in the kitchen or anything
no,
like that.
nope, it was weird. It was very strange. Um,
what do you think that was all about? Is this like a place where people just go to use drugs, or did something happen there and they cleaned it all out? Like
well,
what?
one of the times while I was there, because I went more than once until I got him to come to the door. Uh,
After Lacey's disappearance, you went more than once.
yeah, yeah, I was bound and determined that she was there. Um, but well, one time when I was there, there was a vehicle pulled up, and they had just carried a stereo out and put it in the car, like the old school stereos that have the great big tall speakers, and like when you and I were in high school, maybe. I don't know how old you are, but the great big ones. Anyway, they were putting it in a car, and the girl, told her I was looking for Lacey, and she goes, I don't know where she is. She's not here. Just snotty. And just because they were so rude to me, I felt like they knew something. Because if you don't know something, why be rude? But that's how I am. So
Well, no, I mean, a mom looking for her daughter, there's no reason to be snotty about it unless you really don't want to get caught knowing something about that situation, right? I mean, that's my
yeah,
read.
yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, he lives there to this day, and I don't know why there's no furniture in there.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it wasn't just a spot. Like he actually lives there. He stayed there.
Yeah. Well, and after I was in there, rumor was is that's where he killed her, and they had to take all the furniture out and scrub the place down, and so
Has it ever been searched by the police? Do you know?
as far as I'm aware of, yes.
Oh, it was. Okay.
So what do you know as far as the police investigation goes and how deep they got into it with Jamie and
I am on a as need to know basis with that. They told me that there's only going to be a certain amount of people that know the things that happened to her, and that would be the person that put her out in the trees and the police. So, I mean, I know they did lie detector tests. I know that they went to people's houses. Um, in depth, what do I know? Not much. I'm in the dark.
right, right. And
I mean, my family did the searches when she was missing. They put searches together and went and, and people in the community came along and helped. But as far as like searches, as far as like the police saying, hey, let's get a, you know, a search together and check the wooded area or check the park or whatever. Nobody ever did that. My family did that.
Wow. So I guess let's talk about this part of it then, because it was about 3 months that this search went on. And then ultimately it was someone who accidentally stumbled across Lacey's remains, right?
Yes.
To tell us who and where and like how that whole thing happened, if you don't mind.
Um, well, it was opening season hunting day for deer. And I'll just back up for a minute for a second, though. I do need to tell you this. October 31st, Lacey loved Halloween. And if she was hiding out, that would have been her chance to come home and say, hey, mom, I'm hiding out. I'm okay. She could have come in a costume. Nobody would ever know. I stayed home the whole entire night. And it was after that night, I knew she wasn't okay.
Wow. Wow.
Um, that would have been her prime opportunity. And she loved to dress up. Halloween would have been, I can't stress that enough, that if she was hiding to not go to jail or whatever, that would have been the night she could have gotten in contact with me without anybody knowing.
But up to that point,
I
you
still
did
believe
think
she
that
was okay.
maybe she was hiding out. Maybe she didn't want to
Yeah.
face the music.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to jail either. But
Of course.
anyway, after that night, I knew. And November comes right after October.
Wow.
Um, anyway, so it was morning. I was actually going to go deer hunting that morning. I had my deer hunt permit, and I was back with my ex-husband, and we were out at the farm. Um, and I got a call, and I just knew it was her. They told me that a body had been located, and they believed that it could be her. And they wanted to know if I could meet them at the Norfolk Police Station. So my ex-husband took me to the Norfolk Police Station, where I went in, and I had to bring her toothbrush and her hairbrush. So I had to stop at home and get those. And they swabbed my mouth, took my hair, took her hairbrush, all the DNA to prove that it was her. And one officer that from the Norfolk Police that I knew, he he was legitimately trying, at least I felt, to communicate with me. He asked me if there was a tattoo, if I could see it and know that it was her. If I saw it, would I know it was her? And I said, absolutely. I knew every tattoo she had. Girl's afraid to get a shot in the hospital, but get every tattoo she has. Um, anyway, he showed me a picture of he said what was one tattoo pretty much remaining that was full, and it was hers. So I knew at that time it was her. But politically, without positive DNA from the database or whatever they run it to, I don't know, uh, it couldn't be announced that it was her. But by then, the whole world had been told or heard, that police officers found a body. So my phone was blowing up. But it was hunters. They were out hunting that morning. They were hunting their own fence line, and they came across her.
I'm so
Yeah.
And
sorry.
nobody would have ever even thought to look there. It was Pierce County. It wasn't even Madison County.
Right.
But yeah, I can remember that day perfect.
I'm so sorry.
Where did your mind go when you finally, when it was confirmed for you and you saw that tattoo? Because obviously, she had a lot of stuff going on in her life, both with her own mental health, but also with all these other people and this trial coming up. I mean, um, it wasn't like sometimes you see, people go missing, they turn up deceased and no one can figure it out because there was nothing wrong in their life. But Lacey had some drama going on. So I guess what did you immediately start to think about, like when you moved from wondering where she was to wondering what happened?
Who killed her?
Yeah.
I
Right.
immediately went to who killed her. It wasn't like I didn't even think about her mental health. I thought someone took her life.
Right.
There was
And
never a moment where you thought she could have done this to herself.
nope. First of all, well, I guess I can't say that because people were like, oh, maybe she overdosed on drugs or whatever. And I said that to the state patrol, and he said she didn't get out in the trees by herself.
Yeah.
And she was in Norfolk, and That's not 5 miles where she was found. That's not 5 miles. That 5 miles is from where where she grew up. From Norfolk, it's more like probably 15 miles.
Right. So it would make no sense for her to be there on her own anyway. It just seems like somebody took her there at some point. Yeah.
Somebody dumped her there.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the first thing that comes to mind is they dumped her like she was a dead animal.
So you
Right.
think that she was already deceased before they took her to the woods?
I do, yeah.
Got it.
Um,
Can we backtrack a little bit?
yeah,
Because I feel like there's something really important that we didn't discuss, which is this newspaper article that came out before Lacey disappeared, which, from what we've heard, actually named her and said that she was cooperating with the police. Do you
yes,
remember that?
yes, I do. I'm not gonna lie. At times I wondered if the police did it because I don't know, because I feel like some of the police here aren't real honest. Some of them could be a little corrupt. And she was kind of going back and forth between being with the good people and with the bad people. And um, I don't even know where I'm going with this, except for I believe someone took her life.
Yeah, I guess
I never once thought, you know, well, I guess that's what we were talking about. He put it in my head that maybe, maybe she overdosed. And I'm like, I said to the state patrol, well, she overdosed. How did she get out there? And why was her shoe out in the field? Somebody like that, that's not how it works.
right.
Well, and if she overdosed, how did she get out there? Where's the car that she was driving that she then walked out into the field? And
Yeah, somebody dumped her out there no matter what.
right. And, Sean and I were talking about this earlier before we got on with you. If she took her own life, there would have been something there that she had done it with. Even if they couldn't identify it, because of the state of her remains, there still would have been some evidence of it.
Can't they find drugs in the system still? In the hair?
I don't
You
Because
know.
know,
she,
it was
because
funny.
It's a
I think
great
it was
question.
Felicia or Nick who told us when we interviewed them that they can figure out what, an Egyptian mummy had for their
No,
last
that
name.
was
Pam.
me. That
Pam
was
Well, that
said
was
me.
that
you
when
on
we
the
spoke
phone.
to her on the
Yeah.
Yeah,
phone.
Such a
that was
Yeah,
great,
me.
yeah,
what a
yeah,
great line.
yeah.
They can figure out what King Tut's last meal was, but they can't tell you anything about Lacey, who was, there
After
for
3
months.
autopsies,
Yeah. No, it's insane.
and and I know she had hair still because the one said I recognized her hair right away. I mean, when she was laying there, I recognized her hair right away. So I don't know. Um, and then the one state patrol, I'm just not naming his name because I don't. He's not a state patrol officer anymore, and I don't want to cause him any family problems. Yeah, he's the one that he said I knew it was her. I could tell by her hair.
All right. Can I ask you a question just to clarify what the possibilities here could have been at the time? So obviously you've been talking to Jamie. You were already worried that she was with this guy, Jamie, and that he might be a person of interest in this case, as far as you're concerned. But what about the ex-boyfriend, John? Had he been sentenced yet, or was he still
Yeah, he
out?
was in prison
He was
already.
in prison when this happened. Okay, that's
Yep.
important, I think.
Yeah.
Not that it necessarily couldn't mean that he could, contact somebody to do what he
Right.
wanted outside, but him physically not being out
He
is
himself
important.
physically couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Could he hire somebody? Absolutely.
And it's safe
Pam,
to say he was angry at this situation, probably.
well, Pam,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to clarify. Like, how well known was it when this newspaper article came out? Like, is it something that a lot of people were talking about? Was it on Facebook, or was it just like a little blurb in a paper that not a lot of people would have even known was out there?
What part?
That she was cooperating with the police, that when they published
Um,
that.
I think it was in an article in the paper. I don't think it was a huge one, but if you there's some people that read the public record every day.
And
I
news
have a
gets
friend.
around.
Yeah, I have a friend that reads the public record. He doesn't even live in Nebraska anymore, and he'll send me the Norfolk's most wanted or Norfolk people that are in prison or in jail, what cell they're in, and I mean, people are
People
people are
keep up.
nosy.
And especially like you mentioned earlier, I mean, like even when the one police officer shows up and you knew his brother, like this is a community where probably word spreads quickly
Right.
Yeah.
about gossip, and this is definitely gossip, right? It's a
Yeah.
drive-by shooting. It's people
But it's definitely
cooperating with
worth it.
police.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, was
That,
Lacey scared about that? I mean, did you guys ever talk about that article and the fact that like this had been put out there in the public? Did that make her nervous?
for a while, she was going through this period of telling me that people were watching her.
Hmm.
And I felt like that went more towards that Ortega Rodriguez, that drug house break that she was in, when she was telling me people were watching her. One day I was leaving my apartment and there was a car that had two men sitting in it, and they were still sitting there when I came back. And I left again, and they were still sitting there in the same spot. I went and knocked on their window, and they were investigators, but they were investigating somebody in the apartment they were sitting in front of. But I did that because she kept saying people were watching her.
Right.
And, you know, somebody that's using drugs is paranoid, and somebody that's not using drugs is paranoid because they were using drugs. So it's hard to tell what was real and what wasn't real.
Sure. But I think, you know, if the word has gotten out that you're cooperating with the police, you have an ex who's locked up, you've got a current boyfriend or, you know, whatever Jamie was who's involved in some sort of drug stuff. You have this Ortega guy. You know, I mean, I'd be paranoid at that point. I'd be looking
Yeah.
over my shoulder.
And
I
people were
think
calling her a snitch, you know, when my family was out looking for her when she was missing. They were looking for her body. Um, there was stuff wrote on the bridges that there was one that said Lacey is a snitch. And that had to be my Lacey, because
Yeah.
how many Lacey's are in Norfolk that are snitched on, you know? But so then that makes you really scared about what's really going on.
and you
And
saw
that
that
was before she
yourself.
was home.
You
I
saw,
didn't see that, but my mother, my family did. Yeah. Matter of fact, my mom probably has a picture of it. I'm not sure.
So we had heard the rumor, and I think it came through Felicia and Nick um, that Jamie had been said to be around town saying that too, that she had been snitching and where her body might be found was like going to be close to the family home, just like odd statements that obviously Miles and I can't verify. But have you heard that? Is there truth to that?
There was never anything about she was close to the family home, because that that threw us for a loop. Honestly,
Mhm.
I don't know where that one came from, but there was rumors that she was in the um, gravel pit out here. We have a sand and gravel pit outside of Norfolk, and there was a guy that lived out there that um, he was older, and he would he was a drug user, and he would try to hit on her. And she told me this herself, and she was like, you're like old enough to be my dad. No. And he lived like two houses from the gravel pit. So the state, you asked me earlier if I remember any of the police things that they did. This is one that does stand out. Now that's what I said if Lucha was here, she'd make me remember stuff. But you guys are doing a good job. Anyway, they closed the gravel pit down, and they took the helicopter with the infrared, and it was closed for 2 days. They searched it. She wasn't there.
Wow.
That was the biggest search that I remember that they did. I mean, the main thing I remember they did. So I can't say they weren't looking for her, but in the beginning they weren't.
Right.
when she was missing, once they, yeah. Did you like how much hope did you have that there would be answers? Because I know there's like these stages that you had to go through, right? First, you don't know where she is. Then, like you said, you hit Halloween, you're like, something's happened to her. Then they actually find her body. It's like first you're hoping that she shows up alive, then you're hoping you can at least get some answers, I would imagine, right, on what happened.
Right.
But, like, what was the process there?
Well, in my mind, I just prayed that they would find her, whether it was dead or alive. I mean, that's horrible to say, but once it's been 3 months and you drive down the street and you see a blonde girl walking down the street, or you see a car go by with a blonde in it, or you have somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I know where she is, and if you go for a ride with me, I'll show you." And like, you just hope for closure. you just hope that they find her,
Right.
because you can't keep going through that. There's people that have never found their child, and I don't know how they go on, and like without wondering, what does she look like today? You know,
Right.
I mean,
at
she's
least you got
gone,
some
right?
closure, right?
Yeah, she's gone, and I can still see somebody walk down the street, and it'll be like, that looks like Lacey.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's a different kind of question now. You're right. It's like the hell of where is she is over, and the answer is really, obviously very ugly, but now it's like almost more of a justice thing, or like who did this to her? Okay, we know where she is, we know something really bad happened, but the questions that remain are like why,
Why?
why and who?
Why? What for? Uh, did she really hurt you that bad that you had to take her life? You know, I mean, she was a tough girl. She had to fight whoever she was with, or she trusted them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which means she knew them.
I believe that she got on with somebody she knew.
So that was my next question. What do you think happened?
As far as how she died, part of me thinks that maybe she got beat to death. Rumor was she got ran over by a car. That Jamie Bear's girlfriend, I said the name, I don't know if I'm supposed to, but his girlfriend ran her over with the car. And they did investigate that because she had a dent in her car, and she said she hit a coon. And they went to the place that fixed her car, and they verified there's coon hair burr in their car. So, but I don't think she took her life. I don't think she drug overdosed on drugs. I think I think somebody was just mean and took her life for something that was probably small to her and huge to them.
Do you get the
Um,
feeling that it might have been somebody who you've personally met before?
I feel like somebody's out there that knows me and is scared. And
Yeah.
it's been long enough that, you know, if you're an accomplice, you're still going to probably get in trouble. But wouldn't it eat you up? I mean, it would me, but and I think it would you guys. You guys have seem like you're good people. I mean, anybody that's got a half of a good soul.
Yep.
Yeah, most
Well, that's
people.
always the hope, right? Go with Sean. I think we're going to say the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I was going to say most people would never want to carry this. Like you're talking about, Pam, even someone who didn't directly do it but might have been there or had some small role to play and knows the answers that your family wants so badly. Over time, the hope would be, that gets too heavy to carry and that they do the right thing at some point, which, I hope that us talking about this in public might jar somebody to do that. I mean, I do get the feeling, and it's just a feeling because I don't have any hard evidence here, but I get the feeling that more than one person knows what happened to your daughter in
I
that
do too.
town. Yeah.
I don't think it's
Absolutely.
one person.
No, and in that culture, and the people that we're talking about who may have been involved, nobody's keeping their mouth shut anyway. And probably more than one person was there, I would imagine. I mean, it's,
I
yeah.
believe that she left Jamie Bear's house that night at whatever 12:30. The police said that he said she was there. He did try to call her phone at 8:30 that morning, which could have been, well, yeah, I think that's what they said. And then not long after that, it was just completely dead. And they think that it might have gotten like smashed in a trash compactor, like a garbage truck,
Hmm. I
is what
completely
is what
destroyed.
they tried to explain to me from the last ping or whatever. But I believe that she walked away mad because the girlfriend was there and they were all fighting, and he was supposed to be with her that night, and another love triangle. And she got in with somebody she knows. That's what I believe. Now, how they did it, I don't know. I mean, one thing I've got over some people is I can start to think about one thing, and if that gets too hard in my brain, I can go to a different scenario. And so sometimes I'm like, well, maybe God doesn't want me to know.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think that there's anything to the idea that there is some level of corruption with the cops and that perhaps that's the people that they're caught up with and corrupt with and
Well, I truly believe that the person that she was hanging out with works for a police department, the county attorney. I truly believe that he works for her, or he works for him.
As an informant, you mean?
Yes, or not even as an informant. Actually, I believe he sells drugs for him. May make me sound like a cuckoo, but I'm not the only one in this county that believes that.
You're
I was
not
gonna
the only
say,
person from your family unit that's mentioned this. And we've been sent some very interesting articles that we've read. And
yeah,
there's some
there's this
strange
stuff's been
stuff.
written about.
There's some
Exactly.
strange stuff going on there for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
so basically, just so that we're not being too ambiguous for the
Mm,
audience, but not directly accusing anybody, you're saying that there are people in positions of authority in that county who have been alleged to be involved in the drug trade, and
Yes.
that might overlap with your daughter's case and might give some context as to why after 16 years it's been so difficult for us to get some answers because maybe people don't want those answers to come out.
It's
right.
absolutely how I feel.
It doesn't seem there was all this stuff around her, right? Like there was all this stuff around Lacey's life at this time when she disappeared. I mean, there was really obvious stuff. It's like, you go to where the smoke is, and it doesn't feel like the authorities there have necessarily gone that hard to look into it.
I feel like the smoke was at Jamie's house, and right now he might be in prison, but
Well, I mean, it just seems so obvious, but not that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is. But you would think that there would be more attention put on the obvious than it
they
seems
did
like they have.
they did say that he did a lie detector test and he passed it. But I had to do a lie detector test.
Now, was
I
that
didn't tell you that, did I?
no, you didn't. And I want to go back to that, but Jamie's lie detector test, because Sean and I were wondering about that, was that done after she disappeared or after her body was found?
I want to say it was after she disappeared.
All right.
Right. And we
No,
know that,
no, I think they did it again after she was found
okay.
because I had to take one after she was found.
Why
I
did
was
they
going to
give
say, you'd
you
think there'd be more questions at that point, right? For the lie detector to
Yeah.
stick the
Yeah, I
word.
want to say after her body was found.
why
Yeah.
did they give you a lie detector test? What was the reasoning there from them?
Family is always the first suspect,
Wow. Even the mom.
even
Even
the mom.
even even when you're a corroborating witness in a drive-by shooting and dating a drug dealer, family is still the first suspect.
Yep. They always rule out family first.
Wow. So that you just nailed what I wanted to talk about earlier. The word ruled out and the lie detector test. It
Mm.
does seem like that in this particular investigation, that one tool seems to be the end of the road for a lot of these persons of interest. It's like you give them this one test and they pass it and that's it, despite all these other things that are so suspicious that seem like they need investigating. I mean, what's up with the rumors of what he's been saying? What's up with the empty house? What's up with her being with him as the last person? All you got to do is pass this one test and you're good. I mean, lie detector tests are good. They're pretty accurate, but they're not foolproof. Plenty of people pass them or they give weird results and they're not admissible in court for a reason, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
And as I
um,
always say, the more of a sociopath you are, the easier it is for you to cheat on a lie
What if
detector.
you're on drugs? Wouldn't
right.
that help you relax? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So
Sure.
that just it's so interesting to me because from everybody we've talked to, it seems like that was the end of the road as far as looking into some of these people like Jamie. Like, oh, well, we gave him a lie detector test and it said he was being honest, so moving on.
Right.
But moving on to where it's been 16 years and there's some, I feel like I'm not an investigator, but it feels to me like maybe there's more to do there.
yeah. And I'm kind of at a dead end. I don't even know what the next step is anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
Well,
Right.
you
mean,
can
Well,
too.
like we talked about when we first spoke on the phone, we were telling you about another family that we've worked with and how they basically used all the money they had in the world to hire a lawyer and they sued the cops to get all the records and then tried to use that to do their own investigation. I mean, which is insane that they had to do that. Um,
Life altering for them too, we should say. I mean,
oh yeah, they lost their house and
yeah, it's been a real long road.
yeah, yeah,
and unfortunately, you can spend all the money in the world to find out, and you might not find out. and it's not going to change that they're gone. And there you are with nothing, and you
Right.
still have to live. I
Yeah.
mean, it took me a long time to realize that I still have to live.
Of course, because something so precious from you has been taken, and as a parent, that becomes your identity. I'm a mom, I'm a dad, this is my kid, and when that's gone, how do you recalibrate? I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand why somebody would spend their entire fortune and the rest of their lives in pursuit of
Oh,
trying to patch that hole. But then there's other people like yourself that we've worked with who, like you said, try to find a way to live and recognize that, you still have a lot of years left on this earth and you need to feed yourself and get up and keep a roof over your head. And
yeah.
Well, and
yeah,
you've got
very
other
personal.
kids. And
And
how are you guys? How is the family? How have you guys moved on and how's everybody, what's the last decade and a half been like for your family?
um, it's good and bad. I'm not gonna lie that I feel like I probably deserted Felicia in the beginning and tried to run from it. I was known as Lacey's mom, and there's nothing wrong with being Lacey's mom, but when they look at you, that's what they saw. At least that's how I felt. And so I went to and lived in New York. I went and lived in Colorado. I jumped around trying to find normal. Went back to the ex-husband a zillion times trying to find normal, and there's no normal. You got to make a new normal. So,
Right.
but Felicia and I have always been really close as far as, that. Um, my daughter Hannah, her dad tried to keep her from me and tried to say that it was my fault that Lacey was gone and that she was killed, and he didn't want that to happen to his daughter. So we did a lot of court fighting and not getting to see her without being in his presence, but we made it and we're very, very close. Um, I feel like I've got my family.
I'm sorry you've
Is
been
there
through
always
so
going to be
much,
a
man.
is there always going to be a missing link? Absolutely. But um, sometimes I feel like we're probably not as close because, and most people are closer, but I think that Felicia and I both, I'm kind of putting words in her mouth and I don't want to hurt her feelings, but I think we remind each other.
Right.
I can understand that. I can understand the thinking of that. Um,
Um, and we both look so much like Lacey. I mean, if you put Felicia with Lacey's picture, sometimes you can't tell them apart. When you put Lacey beside me, she's your twin. So
You guys are like two corners of what used to be a triangle, and when you're together, you can almost picture the third one there. It's like
yeah,
feels like is what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. For a long time, it was just us three girls.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
I'm really sorry that you've been through such a long road and so many challenges and things that you've had to overcome. I mean, I had no idea about some of that aftermath stuff with your other daughter and everything, and my heart really goes out to you, Pam, because you're such a lovely person.
uh, let me just tell you, I thank him for it now. I didn't then. I
Mm.
mean, I had good words to say then, but all he did was make us have a really good relationship because I didn't give up. I didn't give up on her.
Well, then I'm glad it landed in a good place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
What
it did take me a long time to realize that I had to keep living because I do have two other children and they needed me. They weren't Felicia wasn't a child, but she was a mom and she had a child, and you know, we did everything together, all of us. And I kind of put a stop to it because I didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
Just there is no normal.
right, right. If somebody's watching this who knows something about your daughter's death, what would you want them to do?
I would want them to come forward and tell the people that need to know. They can tell me, but I can't do anything about it. And
What would be the safest and most effective place that they could go with that information?
hmm, I wish I could tell you that. State
Yes.
Patrol.
Okay, State Patrol. Okay.
Got
I,
it.
but at the same time, I can't promise that if you went and took a piece of information to them that they would even research it now.
Right.
That's how little belief I have in them right now. But 16 years, you know, I shouldn't give up hope though, because there's been people that 40 years later, they've arrested somebody for taking somebody's life. I mean, that's been recently.
Absolutely. It happens a lot. It
Yep.
happens a lot. And like you were saying, someone has a turn of heart, or, someone gets, a really long sentence for something and is facing a long time and they have information about something and they
Yep.
strike a deal. It does happen.
What would it mean for your family to have those answers after all these years? Like, what would that mean for you?
I believe we could stop saying why and how. Some of those, we might not like the answer, but at least we would know.
It would give you some ability to open the next chapter in your life with some sort of closure.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
would be, it would put an, I shouldn't say an end because she's always going to be gone, but at least it would put an end to the nightmare.
Yeah. Because even though it's been 16 years, the nightmare is still here.
Yeah. Um, I have a rule that I don't really talk about Lacey much right before bed. It's my own rule, because then I can't sleep. And then
Sorry
wake
that
up.
I think we just violated that rule with you.
Oh no, I knew I'm prepared. I've been prepared for this. I've
I'm
been
sorry.
preparing. You do have to mentally prepare for these kind of things. I'm not gonna lie, you have to prepare yourself. Um, and I'll be fine tonight because I don't know, it's a different kind of conversation.
Well, we really
You're
appreciate
you're
how
trying to
honest.
help, you know.
Yeah, but we do appreciate what it takes to talk about this and just how open you're being with us and just honest about everything. So,
There's nothing to hide, you know.
Yeah. It's a Hail Mary at this point, right? I
yeah,
mean,
Yep.
yeah. Well,
Worst
Pam,
case scenario, if somebody gets mad at me for saying something, you know, or we
well,
find out the truth someday.
I was going to say, I think you've been through worse, so I
Yep,
think you'll be
that's
all
right.
right.
yeah.
Well, Pam, is there any particular message, as we kind of take this in for a landing here that you wanted to get out besides obviously if someone has information come forward, but is there something that you want people to remember about Lacey or like how you'd like her to be remembered or anything you'd kind of like to leave us with?
I want them to remember that she was a really good person in heart. I mean, really caring. She would have done anything for anybody. Um, give you a ride to work. No matter what she did, she was still a human and she deserved to be treated better.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thought. And
And
obviously,
she deserves justice and you
Yeah.
guys deserve answers no matter what she was doing and
Yep.
it doesn't matter.
I mean, what she did wasn't right. And she knew that. She knew that. And I know that. And sometimes I feel guilty because I feel like I'm fighting for Lacey when she did do that, but she's still a good human person and she's still my daughter. And I'll fight for her until I die.
100%. Yeah,
absolutely.
and look, everybody deserves justice. It doesn't matter.
And
It
everybody's young and dumb at some
She's
point.
19 years old.
That's
Yeah.
so important to keep that in mind for everybody too, because some of the stuff that happened in her life was so like crazy that it's easy to lose sight of the fact that she was basically a kid, you know.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
she still had 6 years before her cerebral cortex was fully developed. I mean, I think about the things that I did when I was that age. It was not 19 was not a good year for me.
And she
So,
just graduated, you know?
right. And she actually graduated,
Yeah.
which is incredible considering the stuff that she was mixed up in, that she still got a high school diploma. I mean,
She had some good teachers that
Yeah.
believed in her. They actually came to her graduation.
no, that
That's
says a
often the
lot too.
difference. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's often the difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for taking the time to go to this difficult place with us on behalf of Lacey. We really appreciate you. And obviously, we're going to be posting interviews with Mike and Barb and Felicia and Nick, but you've been a really like big part of this, and I'm
Thank you.
glad that you did it.
I'm probably the one that knew her the most at that time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows us
Well,
And
better than our mother? I mean,
and I would say Felicia was right beside me with that. If it wasn't me, she was with it was Felicia. So
well,
we were we were her rocks.
you guys have both done her really well, I think. And I could tell how much you both loved her.
yeah.
Oh yeah, very much. One thing I am grateful for is the last time I saw her, I did hug her and tell her I loved her.
That's so important because we talk to people who tell us that they wish that they that they
Yeah.
didn't get to do that. It's not always the case.
If I can leave a message to anybody, don't leave mad.
Right?
Always tell people you love them and hug them.
Yeah.
Even if you're mad, you might not see them tomorrow.
That's such a great message.
It's
Yep.
important and we all forget about it sometimes, because
Yeah.
life's got its ups and downs and sometimes you leave the room angry and you never know. You really never
Yep.
know. Yeah.
Look how many people leave for work and don't come home
Yep.
because they were in a car accident or.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, listen, everybody, if you have any information about this case, we're going to put the phone numbers or websites and any relevant information that we can in the description and at the end of the video. Pam, thank you again for being here with us. And if you think of anything else you want us to know, we're just a phone call, an email away. You've got our info.
Okay.
And yeah, I think on behalf of both of us, I just want to say thanks again for doing this.
Thank you
agree.
for doing this. You're doing it for us.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
no
you,
problem. It's
Pam.
our
It
pleasure.
was an honor talking to you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk later.
Okay. Have a good evening.
You
You too.
too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Yeah.
Never gets easy, you know?
No, it doesn't. I mean, these are heartbreaking stories, and there's nothing like talking to a parent. It's
It's the
it,
hardest. It's the hardest thing.
it's the hardest thing. Yeah, it really is.
A husband, a wife, yeah, it's the hardest thing talking to someone who's lost their kid. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's the hardest thing losing a kid.
Yeah, no, I take your meaning. It's just
Yeah.
it's the hardest part of our
Not
job.
about me and what I have to go through talking to them.
Yeah,
It's just the pain that you get is just it just never gets easy doing it. But I'm glad we're doing it. What an amazing woman, and we gotta look deeper into this, and we're going to, and we're gonna do that suspect in theory video, and we're gonna really really break down all the possibilities on this because there's a lot going on here.
I would
There's a
say
lot
even
going on.
even even more suspects and theories came to my mind just talking to Pam than I had in my mind going into that conversation. There's just a lot of layers to this story, and I think it's one of the things that really strikes me about it is like it seems so obvious. Everyone keeps saying that in these interviews, but it's also so complex. There's so many different possibilities, but they all essentially boil down to some version of the same thing in my mind, which we'll
Hmm.
get into in a separate video. I also think it's like super apparent if you just sat through this interview what I'm talking about. I don't think I have to spell it out.
Yeah.
But
Well, the relationship stuff is interesting. The jealousy and the love triangle bit, and the other woman, and the sort of light that Pam shed on the motivation behind the drive-by is very interesting.
mhm,
Because I
mhm,
believe that we've said before that it was probably drug related, right? And so that's a whole nother layer, in there. But I still think it's okay. But it's still pointing in the same direction, right? As
right.
far as that goes. But then, the other guy, who's like a proven, drug trafficker or drug dealer, um, the fact that like she had spent the night at that house and so he was aware of who she was, he knew her. It's public that she's talking to the cops. I mean, there's just so many possibilities here, but like you said, they all sort of point in the same direction, the same. It's all like if the motivations are broken up into neighborhoods and sort of, it's all like everyone's in this same neighborhood,
Mhm.
all kind of over here,
Yeah.
and they may very that neighborhood may very well include certain officials and people in positions that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, all I can think about with Lacey's final days and weeks of her life, like hearing this whole story and everything that's going on in her life, is it really felt like she had been swimming with sharks and someone finally threw blood in the water, right? And that was her getting outed as a cooperating witness. It was fine up until she became bait or prey or whatever you want to say. Suddenly, her relationship to all these people changes. Um, and again, it might not have been specifically about that article, but there's just when you are dealing with people who are living a criminal lifestyle and are willing to commit violence to protect themselves from law enforcement or to get revenge on each other, like it's only a matter of time until you get caught up in something. And she'd already been caught up in a drive-by, and that is a huge enough deal that you would think that would hopefully be the end of her involvement. But I think by then, maybe things had spiraled to a point where it was hard to get out of that life. It was hard to get away from all these people. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like she was surrounded by danger.
Right.
It's hard to get away from that.
Yeah, and I mean, she was a kid.
And she was 19 years old and not using her best judgment. And it
Yeah,
seemed like sort of in the transitional space between, okay, I need to leave this behind and figure out what else to do with myself. But first, I have to face the music for being involved in a crime. There might be some prison time. And the guy I'm currently dating has a very questionable character from everything
yeah.
we're hearing.
Well, that
Um,
really stood out to me, just that, from everything that Pam said, it did seem like Lacey was at a crossroads and that she was, at least in the conversation she was having with her family, she knew, this wasn't a person without any moral compass. She knew that she had done something wrong. She knew that she wasn't living a good life, and she wanted to get on the right path.
I
And
do have to say, I mean, I never want to boil anybody's life story down to a cautionary tale, but this does, for me, feel almost like it is because getting involved with the wrong people and the wrong crowd, it does have consequences sometimes. And sometimes there are consequences you can escape from. And I'm sure you've been there and I've been there. Like we've all been young and made mistakes and hung out with the wrong people. Most of us get through it, but sometimes the crowd is so bad or you stick around just a little bit too long and you don't come back from it.
yeah,
And it's really hard to understand that when you're a very young person. Sometimes you have to go through it to get that perspective. But Lacey's story breaks my heart because it just makes me think of that, wrong crowd, wrong people. Where would she be today if she had never run into these guys and spent time doing what she was doing with them? Who knows?
yeah, yeah, and just a beautiful young girl, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, her family
it's a real
loved her
shame.
so much too. I mean, that's the other thing that sticks out to me talking to Lacey's family is that sometimes when you have a person in a family who is using drugs, has bad boyfriends, got a criminal rap sheet, the family cuts them off or they're not interested in helping them anymore because it's just one thing after another. And it's like, dude, this is too much drama. We love you, but enough. We've seen that, on this channel before. But here we're looking at a family who never gave up and never pushed away and was there for her and trying to help to the very end,
Yeah,
even if she
and
was,
and as a result of that, she was still connected to them and open about everything, and
yeah.
talking to them, which is why they knew the places where she could have been and the people that she could have been with. There's there's possibilities of why this case hasn't been solved.
Yeah, and I guess we should close it up by saying, no one's been charged with this. No one has been charged with obstructing it either. The problem here is that there's a lot of questions, right? So we're going to dive into those questions in some more videos about Lacey's story. Everything that was said here is pretty much just pure conjecture trying to make sense of a difficult situation with the few facts that are available to us. And so often in an unsolved case, that's all we can do.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of Pam and what she had to tell us. And obviously, let's keep the conversation about Lacey going. Let's keep her name alive. And if anybody out there knows anything about what happened to this poor girl, please, please, please call the number or the website that we're going to put up, whatever, and just, drop a tip.
I second that. All right, guys, we will see you on the next one.